morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is important that we understand where we are as a nation. Zimbabwe is a failed state. I don't think there are many people who argue with that. And I don't think there are many people who argue that the number one reason why we are a failed state is because we have been stuck with this corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship for 45 years and counting. 45 years is a long time. People will be asking, why have the people of Zimbabwe failed to end the Zanu PF dictatorship in 45 years? Are you saying you did not have even one opportunity to change it in that period? The honest answer to that is we did have the opportunity to end the dictatorship. By the late 1990s, the people of Zimbabwe had realized that as long as Zanu PF is able to rig elections, there will be no meaningful change in the country. And so the nation risked all to elect the opposition. And their primary task was that they would implement the necessary democratic changes to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. The question then arises, why is it that 25 years rather, since the MDC CCC came on the political stage, we still have the case of Zanu PF blatantly rigging elections? That is the question that we have to ask ourselves. Why? And the honest answer to that is the MDC CCC leaders had many opportunities to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. The best chance coming during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. They failed to implement even one token reform. Worse still, ever since the GNU debacle, the MDC CCC leaders have participated in flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy, knowing fully well that the process was flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they'll be giving Zanu PF legitimacy. This is not just me saying it. This is something that even the opposition leaders themselves readily admit. This is what David Coulthard said in his book that is being shown there, that the election process in Zimbabwe in 2013 was so flawed, so illegal, the only logical step was to withdraw. So why didn't they withdraw? They didn't withdraw because the opposition politicians themselves, in this case here, MDCN and MDCT, they could not agree that both of them should withdraw. or to a coalition so that both of them would withdraw. And when they realized that they could not have this coalition, they decided they would participate because they also knew that Zanu PF was giving away a few gravy train seats to those to entice the opposition to participate. This is where we are. Whether some people decide to ignore it or they fail to understand it, it doesn't matter. The reality on the ground is we have an opposition who was tasked to implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. And they failed to carry out that task. That is the reality. And ever since the GNU, they've participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, and knowing fully well that participating would only give Zanu PF legitimacy. So, where are we as a nation? Well, politics made simple. The question we have to ask ourselves now is, did Chamisa lie when he said he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes to stop Zanu PF rigging the 2023 elections? Hashtag God is in it. He even invoked the name of God. The elections were 2 years ago, 2023. We have got all the facts before us. Chamisa said he was going to win those elections because he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes, because it was God's plan. Here he is speaking just a few days before voting started.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yamwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
Well, he prepared his cabinet. He told us it was God's plan that the opposition would win. He had stopped Zanu PF rigging those elections. And yet, we all know that Zanu PF blatantly rigged those elections. So his first claim that he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections was a lie. Because Zanu PF blatantly rigged those elections. And his second claim that God was in it, that too was a lie. God was never in it. If God was in it, then he would have succeeded. How many times has Chamisa claimed that God is in his plans? It is God's plan. And yet again and again, that plan has never turned out to be true. We need to wake up as a people and be smart enough to separate the works of a human being and the works of the divine. Just because an ordinary mortal claims that I have got the divine inspiration, I've got the divine mission, does not mean that he has been appointed by God. The people of Zimbabwe have got to realize that Zimbabwe is a failed state. We have been stuck with this Zanu PF dictatorship for 45 years and counting. The last 25 years of which Zanu PF has remained in office with the connivance of the MDC CCC opposition. This is the reality people have to face. If we want to see the real change, we've got to accept that we need a competent opposition. Going back to the late 1990s, when we agreed we need an opposition whose primary task will be to implement the necessary democratic changes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. The present MDC CCC leadership have failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years. That is a reality. We've got to accept it. We cannot keep on dodging the bullet. We have an opposition that has failed to perform. And worse still, they now claim that God is in it, so that we cannot hold them to account for their failure. I would like to repeat it here. God was never in it. Chamisa lied when he said he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. He was lying. He did not do even the most basic things, like making sure that he deployed election agencies at all the polling stations. Something as basic as that. And we hear he had received the money and he pocketed the money. And now he's coming back and he's telling people, I'm fired up. God is in it. Are we going to believe it again? Because if we do believe that idiotic lie and participate in 2028 elections, we will only be giving Zanu PF legitimacy and perpetuating the dictatorship and the nation's suffering. We cannot continue this madness. It's pure madness. It is within our power to elect competent opposition leaders who will implement the reforms. The fact that Chamisa and company have failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years does not mean we don't need the reforms anymore. Nor does it mean there are no competent opposition leaders who could implement those reforms. What has held us back these last 25 years is our failure to accept that the MDC CCC leaders have failed. We have to ask ourselves that question. At the present moment, the simple, most important question that must be asked by every Zimbabwean out there is, did Chamisa lie when he said he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes? Hashtag God is in it. If you can't answer such a simple question, and yet you go and vote, then, of course, you don't deserve a healthy and functioning democracy. You don't deserve good governance. You deserve what you have, a failed state. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.